The second relationship is faith challenge. We've talked a lot about this over the course, particularly with the basket, Paul and the basket video, where we were arguing that persecution, at least in a spiritual form, is in a sense something we all experience, no matter what the context. We are always called to be in some kind of struggle. First, the struggle we're always in, which is, as we saw, against our reluctant hearts, against a blinding world, against a lying devil or the forces of evil. And this, as we said, occurs really regardless of context. But second, there's the struggle we must awaken to, because what our culture worships, we struggle against. A culture is always worshipping something that isn't God. And then third, there's the struggle we must create. This is what we have to look at in our own lives. Are we walking away from a fight that we should be engaged with? Because we can avoid certain kinds of struggle. Sometimes the battle comes to us, but sometimes we have to take our faith to the battle. And of course, this is very understandable when a person usually gets older, especially in a Western society. They get wealthier. And with wealth comes the ability to wall oneself off from human need. And it's not wrong. I mean, if you're a Christian parent, wouldn't you take your child to a nicer area rather than having them walk through an area where there were drugs and guns and violence on a routine basis? Of course, you want to give your child a better chance. But the danger with this kind of wealth is that it insulates. And what is going to keep us awake to a world of pain and need and sorrow if our world has less and less of it, our personal world? I remember hearing an extreme example of this. I had a friend who lived in Santa Barbara, a couple of hours' drive north of Los Angeles. And his house was situated right next to the pop singer Michael Jackson's ranch. It was called Neverland. And he would say, late at night, we would hear the sound of the choo-choo train. And we would know that more often than not, Michael Jackson was playing alone with his super expensive toys. Jackson had fabulous wealth, but what he'd done was to create his own fantasy world. He had the wealth to keep the real world out. And the price, though, of course, was a chronic, arrested development. Now, most of us are not in that situation to such an extreme extent. But if we live in the USA or the United Kingdom, Germany, Europe, perhaps Australia, New Zealand, and you're middle class in those societies, like it or not, you're in the top 3% of the world's wealth. The nature of wealth is to keep need away. And this is why we need the faith challenge of the persecuted, because it keeps us awake to a world of sorrow and pain and suffering. We can't shut it out. We mustn't shut it out. So take the faith challenge of the persecuted. Make sure we are in a fight. Make sure, in a sense, we are in trouble for Jesus, like that great preacher said. Jesus said, love your enemies. He didn't say, don't make any. And bizarrely, we will find that in that fight is half the joy of being a Christian.